I've been interested in a lot of different ways in making visible the lives that often get pushed to the sidelines of history or of our contemporary storytelling. It matters to me that my sons, who are Mexican American, find a whole lot of books on the shelf when they get to the high school library that reflect a wide range of Latinx experiences. So with Out of Darkness, I wanted to tell a story about Texas history that was the kind of story that would really matter to my students in particular. And I wanted to tell a story that was connected to where I grew up. I think we're underestimating students. And we're also imagining that not talking about something somehow lessens its impact. Well, the thing that we should be upset about is not people talking about painful histories and ugly aspects of our past. It should be that we allowed those things to happen. That those were the experiences of generations of young people. We should be able to turn our attention to that with an eye to what do we do to repair? What do we do to change? Where are the lessons that we are integrating into our lives now? And when folks want to take away the opportunity for young people to ask hard questions that they want to ask, that they're ready to ask, I think that they want to take away the opportunity for growth and transformation, and that negatively impacts every student. Even if book banning were great for sales, it's bad for students. It means that the kids like the ones that I taught in Houston go into libraries that are missing books they want and need. And it's most damaging for those students who have the least access to books and information outside of school. And for students like mine, if a book was not in the school library, it might as well not have existed. I'm just finishing editing a collection called Band Together, Our Fight for Readers' Rights, and it's an anthology of banned authors. And one of the things that I'm so excited about is that this book really brings the story to young people of what may be missing from their library and what may be missing from libraries of their peers across the country. And my experience has been that most young people don't actually know what's happening. They don't know that things are missing. They may just think there's nothing they want to read in their school library. And so I want librarians to have a book that they can buy and put back on the shelf that helps students know whose voices are now missing from their library and what they can do about it.
It is with great pride that we introduce the inaugural Toni Morrison Awards for Courage. It is with the kind permission of the Toni Morrison Estate and Knopf Publishing that allows us to honor Americans who are fighting in the spirit of Toni Morrison to make sure that those people who know that they are valued and supported.
Parents have a right to restrict books in the same way, under the same circumstances under which they are read in the home. They have a right to tell a child their own children what to read, and exercising some parental control over a minor. They don't have the right to tell my children what to read, which is what happens when you ban a book publicly. You are not only exerting your rights over your own children, you are imposing the restrictions on mine. So the nature of a public school cannot support that.
To present the first award of the evening, please welcome the founder of Books and Books Stores here in Miami, Mitchell Kaplan.
Thank you. You know, I just have to pick up on the theme of the last panel and say that I am indeed lucky to have all of you in this room, if you remember what was said in the last panel. And I also want to really pick up on what Toni Morrison just said, that nobody, and I mean nobody, has the right to tell me or you what to read, what to buy, and for me, what books to sell. You know, as we've been hearing, that this past year has seen a surge, yet again, another surge, a huge surge in book bans that have been across the United States. The numbers themselves are really astonishing, as we've heard. For any reasonable person, these bans present a really, really, really troubling signal of what's happening and what's going on with our democracy and where it might be heading. And I want to just pick up something that Lawrence said, is that we in Florida also know that this is an attempt at distraction. There's some really serious issues that all of us are facing. And the attempt of politicians to use book banning, culture, to try to divide us is something so insidious, and it's so very dangerous as well. But on a more hopeful note, evenings like tonight are making us hopeful, and giving these awards are just part of that. Because even in the face of these really, really regressive threats, there are so many people who are acting courageously by pushing back. They're pushing back in some of the most egregious states like Florida, Texas, Idaho, and other places. And it's important that all of us sound the alarm, but we also have to celebrate that courageousness, the courageousness of some of the most vulnerable members of the book community. So it's my honor to recognize two independent booksellers from Texas who personify courage. Charley Rejsek, who's the CEO of Austin's BookPeople. Let's give a big shout out for BookPeople. And Valerie Koehler, who's the owner of Houston's Blue Willow Bookshop. You know, we as independent bookstores, and I think Lauren is beginning to find that as well, we have a lot on our plate. It's really hard to be a bookseller. So when you're confronted with this kind of book banning and these kinds of laws that are being passed, it takes a lot to add that to everything that's on your plate. But these two women took a stand against one of the most outrageous book banning laws in the country, HB 900. It's also known as Texas's book rating bill. And what it would have required is that booksellers and library vendors would have to, listen to this, every bookseller and anyone selling to a school system would have to review and rate books for sexual content. Can you believe that? As a condition to be able to do business with the Texas school system. That is just completely outrageous. But what makes it even more outrageous, that not only would that be on books that you're about to sell, but you'd have to go back to everything you've ever sold to any Texas school system and rate any book that you had ever sold to them for their sexual content as well, or you couldn't do business with the Texas school system. Knowing that this would make it impossible to sell books to schools, Charley and Valerie, and actually they're meeting at this event for the very first time, which I'm very happy that we could bring them together, that they became lead plaintiffs in a federal lawsuit claiming that HB 900 is unconstitutional. They've had help from a number of national free speech groups. There have been some victories. Key provisions of the bill have been blocked, but the suit is still ongoing. But Valerie and Charley, they still remain fierce and resolute in opposing all attempts to limit access to books. Protecting the freedom to the read is fundamental to them and to independent booksellers everywhere. And I'm proud to present a 2024 Toni Morrison Courage to Read Award to both Charley and Valerie. Please give them a big, big round of applause.
So we're just a little neighborhood bookstore in Houston, but we've sold lots and lots of books to schools over the years. And if you think about it from a business perspective, this would put us out of business to have to go back and try to figure out. We don't read every single book that we bring into the store. Sorry to, dispel you, but, and we don't even agree on every single book that we bring into the store. Definitely don't agree on every single book. So this would have been a very difficult thing. So we're very excited that the lawsuit, how the lawsuit is going. And I just want to say that one person asked me, and I think Lauren brought this up, political. I've always said we are apolitical at the bookstore. If you came in the back room, you might know. My son is here with me tonight. He would know what I would say at home, but I never said it in front of people. So this has been a very eye-opening experience to be political and to learn and to explain to all of my customers that it begins locally. Go to your school boards, go to your school boards, go to your school boards. It begins locally. And I hope that all of you will take that away. And thank you so much to the organization here for appreciating the work that Charley and I have done with the help of many, many, many other people, including absolutely great lawyers. So thank you.
So I work at a bookstore called BookPeople, and it's named after the book Fahrenheit 451, which I just reread recently. And one of the lines that really stood out to me was technology, mass exploitation, and minority pressure carried the trick when it came to censorship. And I feel like we are in this moment right now. And I thank you all for being here tonight to be advocates for access to books. And I hope that we never get to where that place is in Fahrenheit 451. And the only way to make sure that we don't get there, because it's very ripe for us to get there, is to continue to fight against these kinds of terrible laws that are happening. And I just want to thank Valerie. I want to thank our trade organization, the American Booksellers Association, who, without them, we would not be able to have been in this lawsuit. And I want to thank the rest of our coalition. As Valerie said, it's taken a village. It's going to take the country to come together to help fight this. And Mitch just asked me to talk a little bit about where the lawsuit is. And so we are currently in the Fifth Circuit Appeals Court, which is in New Orleans. We won our first appeal. We didn't appeal, so we were in the lower court and we won. The state appealed, took it to the Fifth Circuit. We won, and then it was asked to go in bank, which is basically when you go to appeals court, you get 3 judges, but there's 17 judges in the whole court, and they wanted all 17 judges to hear our case. And thankfully, our third win, it was very, very close, 9-8. 9 justices didn't want to hear it, and we're talking about the First Amendment of the Constitution here. And out of the 8 judges who didn't agree with the ruling, 5 of them put out an opinion that they literally had no idea why this is unconstitutional. And so this is the problem that we are dealing with, is that these are people who all have the same jobs, and they're supposed to be upholding the Constitution, and they don't agree. And so we have to come together to fight this and make sure that they understand when the Constitution is being broken, because it seems like some of them don't understand now. And so I just want to say thank you. We have 5 weeks to find out if our case is going to be petitioned to the Supreme Court of the United States. So July 17th is when we will find out.
Thank you both, and we will be watching very, very carefully as to what happens. Thank you.
To present the next award, please welcome AFT Secretary Treasurer Fedrick Ingram.
Good evening again. And we're going to keep a Texas theme going here. Florida and Texas got a lot in common. The beaches, weather, the bushes. I'm sorry. Never mind. Daniel Santos is a longtime educator, the executive vice president of the Houston Federation of Teachers. That deserves a big round of applause. Daniel is a multiple winner of Teacher of the Year awards in Texas. He has dedicated his life to spreading the joy of reading to students and has fought attempts to censor both students and other educators, as well as the access to books in their classrooms. When AFT's Reading Opens the World launched in December 2021, Daniel hosted 2 book distribution events with many bilingual English-Spanish books because he believes that students should see themselves in the books that they read. Daniel is a champion of education, an advocate for literacy, and a teller of truth. Today, we are proud to honor and award Daniel Santos with a Toni Morrison Award for Courage. Let's give it up for this freedom fighter.
Buenas tardes, mi gente. Good evening. So I teach a dangerous subject, history. And I've done that for 18 years. And I feel humbled that I'm being honored tonight, and I feel awkward that as a teacher I have to be courageous. And I wondered how much I deserved this award until 2 days ago. One of my former 6th graders came to visit me to invite me to his graduation. And he reminded me of the one semester 6 years ago in which I read an entire book, Under the Blood Red Sun, which speaks about the experience of a Japanese American in Hawaii after the attack of Pearl Harbor and the impact of the Japanese internment executive order. And my student is from Guatemala, and he remembers that it was his favorite book because he connected with that story. And he, to this day, he says he continues to read that book because it was valuable, it was important. So I think it's important for us as teachers is to create a space so that our students can dare to reimagine new futures, and they can dare to connect, and they can dare to dissent. And I think in Texas it makes it very difficult when we have policymakers who think differently, but there are more of us. And I'm grateful that there are more of us like you also who stand with teachers who dare to dissent and dare to create those spaces for our students to find and create and envision a new future. So thank you again for the award.
To present the next award, please welcome ALA past president Lessa Pelayo-Lozada.
Good evening again, everyone. I'm honored this evening to present the inaugural Right to Read Toni Morrison Courage Award from the New Republic to library leader Allison Grubbs. As Broward County Library Director, Allison was selected for this award for her exceptional commitment to intellectual freedom and access to information for all. She has faced criticism and threats for standing up for the freedom to read and for creating book sanctuaries in each of the 36 branches in Broward County. Her public library system has embraced books that are being challenged and banned in Florida schools and libraries nationwide. In Allison's words, she says, "The right to think, speak, and learn freely are foundational values in our democracy and in our libraries." At the American Library Association, we could not agree more. I want to thank the New Republic for creating this award and to thank Allison for the courage she has shown under intense pressure. She hasn't wavered in her commitment to intellectual freedom. She is a shining example of our profession. And when I said earlier that it's a hard time to be a librarian right now, people like Allison inspire people like me to come to work every day. Allison, you are so deserving of this award, named for Toni Morrison herself, who spoke truth to power in her words and in her life. And please join me in congratulating Allison for her courage and dedication to preserving the freedom to read.
So I do not speak eloquently on the fly, so please bear with me. I stand before you humbled and deeply honored to receive this year's Toni Morrison Courage Award. Toni Morrison was a literary giant, a voice for the voiceless, and a champion of social justice. Her courage in confronting racism and her unwavering belief in the power of storytelling is an inspiration to us all. To be recognized with an award bearing her name is a privilege I will forever cherish. While it's always exciting and encouraging to receive accolades or honors of any kind, being acknowledged for taking a stand on censorship and the right to read, an issue I feel so passionately about, is particularly significant. I thank you sincerely for this award because it means a great deal to me to be recognized for the values in which I am rooted as an individual and the principles I uphold as the director of the Broward County Library System. We, as we have heard tonight, find ourselves in extraordinary times, both politically and socially. An outgrowth of the polarization and factionalism that currently engulf us is censorship. We see misguided activism encroaching on school curricula, the press, and the collection management of libraries. Not long ago, this was unheard of, and today it's ubiquitous. Censorship and intellectual inhibition are something that we must all stand steadfast against. When we lose the unchallenged right to read, think, speak freely, we have lost not only our social liberty, but our humanity. The history of totalitarianism in every age and culture has demonstrated that censorship of citizens and their press is the preliminary mechanism by which the descent begins. And so I could not be prouder of your recognition of my personal and professional position on this issue. My commitment to the freedom to read will remain unwavering. Thank you. And just as Toni Morrison's courage inspired countless readers, libraries have the power to ignite a passion for learning and empower individuals to become agents of change. And this award is a tribute to the tireless work of librarians everywhere who dedicate themselves to ensuring that everyone has the chance to reach their full potential. I thank you for your recognition and moral support as we all together exercise the courage for the right to read. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nikole Hannah-Jones, and I'm so very honored to present this award today. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about the woman this award is named for. Toni Morrison was born in Lorain, Ohio, a small city at the mouth of the Black River. When she was 2 years old, her family's landlord set fire to their house while they were in it because her parents had fallen behind on the rent. So she learned very early on that injustice is a part of American life, that there are people out there who are bound and determined to make things as hard for you as they can, but also that there is no reason that we should accept it. Don't let anybody convince you this is the way the world is and therefore must be, she wrote in one of her essays. It must be the way it ought to be. Toni Morrison grew up on traditional Black American folk tales, ghost stories, and songs. As a small girl who loved books, Two of her favorite authors were Leo Tolstoy and Jane Austen, two great writers whose works were also banned. And so that brings us to the woman whom I'm here to give this award to today. Jacqueline Woodson, or as most of us call her Jackie, was also born in Ohio. Her favorite authors growing up were Mildred D. Taylor and Hans Christian Andersen, two authors whose books were also banned. Yes, that's right. Cinderella and Rumpelstiltskin were challenged in Tennessee for being secular humanist, and The Little Mermaid for being pornographic. Jackie has been granted a MacArthur Fellowship known as the Genius Grant, and she has been the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature. She's won the Newbery Award 4 times, the Coretta Scott King Award 6 times, and she has won the Hans Christian Andersen Award too, twice. But tonight is the first time she or anyone else has won the Toni Morrison Award for Courage by an author. Jackie's books may have been banned, but she has not accepted that. She has spoken up and spoken out against censorship in America today. A writer's life and work are not a gift to mankind, Toni Morrison once wrote. They are its necessity. Jackie is a profound writer, an activist, a door opener, a light in dark times, and she is also my very dear friend. Everyone in the world should be able to read books by Toni Morrison and Jackie Woodson today, tomorrow, and forever. They are, as Toni Morrison said, a necessity. Jackie's voice, especially, is a necessity in these times. Jackie, you are so very deserving of this honor. I only wish I could be there to see you in person. Congratulations.
I'm actually going to see her next Saturday. She's having a fried chicken in the Revolution party, which is an annual thing that I love so much. You know, it's so funny because my publisher does my whole itinerary. You know, you're going to be at this hotel, you're going to take that plane, you're going to walk across the street. No place in this itinerary did it say anything about an acceptance speech. But I have to tell you, I am so deeply grateful and near tears to receive this Toni Morrison Award, and I want to tell you 3 stories. The last time I saw Toni Morrison alive, I was giving her an award, and by that time, we had met maybe 5 or 6 times, and she was in a wheelchair, and some part of me knew it was going to be the last time I saw her, and I kneeled down beside her to present her with the award because I thought it would be disrespectful to, you know, just bend and give. And she said, "You don't have to kneel for me. Don't ever kneel for anybody." And the other time I saw her before that was at the Philadelphia Free Library. And if you've heard the news, Philadelphia Free Library's speakers events, the whole staff basically got fired, which is, again, part of all this violence that's going on against literature. But I was introducing Toni Morrison, who's going to read. So I get up, I give this introduction, you know, we hug. I go back and sit down, and I'm sitting next to her publicist, whose name I forget, I'm sorry. But I had said, everyone turn off your cell phones and, you know, all of that stuff. And then right next to me, the publicist's cell phone starts ringing really loudly while Toni Morrison is reading, and I'm glaring at her, and she has this big bag on her lap, and she tries to hand me the bag, and I'm like, "It's not my cell phone ringing," like, "No." And then she's like, "No, it's Toni's cell phone, and I don't know how to turn it off, so I need you." I'm like, I am not going into Toni Morrison's pocketbook. So we just let it ring, and I was like, "No, I'm not going to his sister girl's pocketbook. It's Toni Morrison's bag." So, and I think about the quote by James Baldwin in understanding our role in censorship and what Jodi Picoult said in quoting Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop. James Baldwin, and I may be paraphrasing, said, You think your pain is unprecedented in the history of the world, and then you read. And I think that's so true of all of us. We have seen ourselves, we have seen mirrors of ourselves in literature. We have seen windows into worlds that we would never have experienced or understood or grown to have empathy for. We have seen the other and come to love the other, and we want the other to be okay because sometimes the other is us. So I am so grateful to be here. Oh, the one other story I will tell about censorship, and then I'll shut up. See, my publisher should have said you had 3 minutes and all of that stuff, but they didn't, so here I am. When I was in the 5th grade, I read The Bluest Eye for the first time, which was Toni Morrison's first book. And it was the 1970s book, so it had this weird cover that it was like a black woman, and she had on a bad wig, and she was kind of dressed up like a little girl, and she was holding a white baby doll. So you didn't know, it was like, was she supposed to be a little girl? Was she supposed to be a woman? And I'm sure that's how it got into our 5th grade class. Maybe our teacher just looked at the cover and said, 5th grade book. It was not. And so I read that book, and then I read it again in college. And what I had remembered from that book, and for those who've read it, you know, for those who haven't, I suggest you do, I remember that the main character, Nikole Breedlove, in the end of the book, she got blue eyes and lived happily ever after. When I read the book in college, that ending was that Nikole Breedlove wanted blue eyes so badly and wanted to feel love so badly that she ended up losing her mind. And I swore for about 5 years that Toni Morrison had written 2 versions of this book. She had written a kid's version, and she had written an adult version. And people always say, no, it's only one book. But the thing about young people is they compartmentalize. You take in what you can understand from where you're at, and the rest you put away and hopefully revisit the narrative and take it in later and understand a little bit more. So I have to say I'm so grateful to the New Republic. I'm so grateful to Books and Books. I'm so grateful to Penn. I'm so grateful to all the teachers and librarians and readers and thought leaders. That's a newish word, but I love it. In the room who are trying to literally change this narrative of erasure. I'm here with you. Whatever I can do, let me know, and thank you for being here with us.
To present our final award, please welcome the director of Penn, America, Florida, Katie Blankenship.
Good evening again. It is such a great privilege to be here tonight, but specifically for this moment. I'll start with a bit of a story of how we've gotten here. So Mitch, Hadia, everybody will help me, but I think it was very close to a year ago, almost to the date, that the Miami-Dade School Board made the decision to ban Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb, Rio Cortez's The ABCs of Black History, and Tony Medina's Love to Langston from elementary school shelves. If you know these books, especially The Love to Langston and ABCs of Black History, they're elementary children's books, they're picture books. And that was outrageous to the residents of Miami-Dade and those of us who are invested in our public school system, and the parents that do so much to advocate for the right to read alongside the teachers in our unions. So many of us gathered one night about a year ago at the Coral Gables United Congregational Church of Christ, and we were gathered together with about 400 people, maybe 400 to 500 people packed into this room, and we came together that night to recognize the discrimination, the blatant attempts of erasure, and the clear moves to authoritarianism and censorship that was happening in our state and happening in Miami-Dade County. That night launched the movement of what has now become the South Florida Freedom, F-R-E-A-D-O-M. I've seen a Freedom t-shirt in here somewhere, they'll stand up for you. The South Florida Freedom Coalition. This group has come together representing a myriad of organizations, and they represent not only the power of what happens when we come together, but the real essence of this movement and what it takes. For those of us who are fighting in Florida, we talk about what is happening down here in a way of addressing the strategy of overwhelm. It's the fire hose strategy, right? They are going to throw everything at us to take our rights away that they can, right? We've heard our other speakers talk about that. Now, that is atrocious in all of the many ways that it undermines our democracy, but what it also does and what it's meant to do is to separate us. It is meant to divide us, because when we are so thoroughly attacked in who we are and our identity, our families, and our children's identity, it's hard to see room for others and the other pain that others are going through. But we in Florida say that they have gone too far and created an opportunity in their extremism, because while they opened a fire hose on us, the Floridians have come together and found, perhaps maybe for the first time in the history of what we're seeing in the South, of real coming together across lines and across perspectives and across identities that we haven't seen since the Civil Rights Movement. And this group represents this so incredibly well. It is made up of organizations fighting for racial justice in Florida, LGBTQ youth organizations, parents groups, our union fighters, our teachers, Cuban American women fighting for democracy. It is exactly the diverse group that is required to understand that we are all attacked. When our books are banned, when our teachers are threatened, when our history is taken away, we are all harmed. And so this group, yes, let's give it up to this group. This group decided from that night on and has continued to rally together, to move in tandem, and has become an example for the entire state of what happens when you work in community and build from the grassroots movement. So it is with my great privilege to recognize and present the Toni Morrison Courage Award to the South Florida Freedom Coalition. I'm going to recognize the organizations and ask them to please join us here. And it's amazing because there is a lot of them, and this is the illustration of the movement. Okay, so the Books and Books Literary Foundation with our own beloved Mitchell Kaplan. Mitchell, come on down. The Coral Gables Congregational United Church of Christ, UCC, with our lovely Reverend Lori Hafner. UCC is such an amazing place you haven't visited. It's my community. It's all of ours, though. It has been a sanctuary for banned books. It has been a sanctuary for the LGBT community and an ally and sanctuary for the Black Lives Matter movement. We love UCC. The Cuban American Women Supporting Democracy. Crystal Etnian is here with us. Esther De Verona is here with us tonight. Esther, it's lovely to see you. Now it's your turn, so sorry. The Democratic Public Education Caucus of Florida. Crystal Etnian is with us tonight. Families Against Banned Books, or as we call them, FAB. Hadia Sepri is here tonight. Florida Freedom to Read is an organization based out of Orlando that's been supporting the South Florida movement. They are founded by Stefana Farrell and Reagan Miller, who unfortunately cannot be with us tonight, but we appreciate and love them very much. The Miami Center for Racial Justice. Stephanie Pacheco is here with us tonight, and we want to recognize Dr. Marvin Dunn, who has been in the movement and in the struggle from the very beginning, and we are so thankful for him and the work that they're doing. The Miami Freedom Project. Ana Sofia Pelayo is here. Ana Sofia, thank you so much. We also have Moms for Libros, Lizette Fernandez. Come on down, Lizette. And Vanessa Brito. And last but certainly not least, we have PRISM and their wonderful executive director, Max Finning. Hadia, we want to invite you forward to speak a little bit for the group. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. On behalf of the coalition, I'm humbled to be accepting this award. You know, we are fighting for all the books, but we're also fighting for intellectual freedom, which is the right of every individual to both seek and receive information from all points of view without restriction. Our group recognized that. And It was incredibly organic and very strategic for our groups to come together, because we all, in our own way, are fighting for the same thing: intellectual freedom and banned books. We realized that the censorship that's happening in Florida is not just about the books. It's about control. It's about banning ideas. It's about censoring intellectual freedom. So with that, it was incredibly important for all of us to come together to fight for the same cause. Thank you so much.
We'll get a picture and pass the awards out, so give us just a moment. I just want to take a moment one more time to look at the visual of this, of what we are and what the power is of the community when we come together and start with the grassroots movement and what change looks like and what protecting our democracy looks like. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. My name is Michael Caruso. I'm the CEO and publisher of The New Republic. We know what the... Thank you. We know what the problem is, and the solution is sitting in this room right here. I'm so proud and thrilled to have everybody here come here. I want to thank our sponsors, the ALA, the AFT, PEN America, Penguin Random House, Macmillan, and St. Martin's. I'd like to make a special personal thank you to Kim Blanchard, our fabulous, amazing marketing director, who's really the brains behind this whole operation. I want to tell everybody that the great authors that you've seen here tonight are going to be out in the lobby signing books, which is a fantastic opportunity. And I want to thank everybody for coming and tell you to keep reading. Good night.